Well, it's getting ridiculous. I can't believe what's going on in the world of bodybuilding right now.
6'4" and full of muscle.
Mark Haynes doing stuff. Welcome to the channel. Okay, so as many of you know, I used to compete in bodybuilding. Did my first competition back in 2005 when I was 18 years old. And the sport today, if you want to call it a sport, is completely unrecognizable from how it was back then. Let me explain. So when I first started competing, for men, there was one division. There was men's bodybuilding. So basically that's what you think of when you think of bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger, that type of thing. You know, you're in the posing trunks, you're up there, you do the poses. There's different mandatory poses you have to do. You flex. So there's bigger guys and then there's smaller guys. So they have different weight classes. So that way, that like a huge muscle guy doesn't compete against like a skinnier muscular guy. And, you know, because they're in different weight classes. And then at the end, the winners of all the weight classes come out and compete for the overall champion. So and it's not always the biggest guy who wins. Sometimes the smaller guys win. So it was cool. You know, you had to work out, you had to build up a certain amount of muscle to get to the level to be able to compete and show off your muscles on stage. Then to bring more people into the sport, they introduced this other division. It's called men's physique. These guys wear like basically a bathing trunks. They'd wear, you know, shorts down to their knee. So the legs are not judged in this. It's just an upper body contest. It's more of like, I don't know, fitness model type look. They're not as muscular, but they have like, you know, very defined abs, very small waist, you know, and still like good muscle tone on top. So it's still, you know, it's a reasonable thing to say you want that into it. Then several years go by and then they decide, okay, well, we'd like to have something maybe kind of in the middle. So whereas bodybuilding, the guys are just getting too big, so muscular because new advancements with, you know, training and diet and guys just pushing themselves to the limit and you know, drugs and everything that the sport's involved with. So the guys are just getting massive and massive. So they're like, okay, let's make another division. Let's call it classic physique. So this is like, we want to go for a look like what the bodybuilders had in the 1970s and 80s before they started getting so big. So it's understandable. Okay, so you got three divisions. You got one for, you know, skinny but still muscular, one for huge, massive muscle, and then you got one that's kind of in between those two. So yeah, it's cool. You know, all three have their place. You know, the competition's starting to feel like, you know, they're taking a lot longer because you got so many more people coming in and with the popularity of the sport on social media, but it's still not unheard of as far as the men go. Now for the women, let's discuss that because this is where I have a real problem. It's getting completely out of control. Okay, so when I first started competing, you had women's bodybuilding, which was the same as men's bodybuilding, only, you know, obviously they're women, so they can't get quite as big, quite as ripped, but they're still pretty muscular. And then you had another division for the women who didn't want to get so muscular like that. You had women's physique, or women's figure. It was called figure, and that was, you know, women who didn't want to be big and muscular like bodybuilders, but still, you know, had a great shape to them, great look to them, muscle, you know, not quite as ripped as a bodybuilder, but, you know, low body fat and very muscular. And then there was this other division called Miss Fitness, and that was similar to the physiques that the women of figure have, only they do like a routine also besides just the mandatory poses, which they do that. Then they had a routine where they do like gymnastics moves. It's kind of like the floor exercise that the gymnasts do. So it was cool. They had the 3 divisions for women. It wasn't out of control. You know, competitions were ending at a fairly reasonable time. But the sport wanted to bring in more people, obviously, more money, more fans, get more competitors, because you have to remember, you have to pay to compete in these contests. So, and it's not cheap. It's a couple $100 to be able to compete, and you're not competing for money, you're competing for a trophy. So what they did was they introduced new divisions. They introduced a division called bikini, and that was for women who maybe have only been training for a short time, don't really have much muscle. That was kind of like, it's kind of like how men, they had the swim trunks division for men. They have women's bikini, and so that's just women that look good at the beach, that type of look. You don't have much muscle, you're not like completely shredded, you're just like a hot chick in a bikini. They came up with that division. So that had this huge flood of competitors. Everyone started competing in that. Then they decided to have another division that was between women's figure and women's bodybuilding. So for women that didn't want to get so huge as the bodybuilders, they came up with this women's physique division. So now you have women that don't want to be big like bodybuilders, but want to be bigger than figure. But so now you had bikini, which was the skinny women. Then you have figure, which is the next level up. Then you had women's physique, which was the next level up. And then you have women bodybuilding, which is the top level of muscle. And then fitness, which was along the lines of figure, muscle-wise. So you would think, like, that's a lot of divisions. There's got to be something for everybody. Like, even people who barely even work out, you know, and don't want to get big, they can do bikini. It's not enough divisions because they want to bring in more money to the sport. So now they come up with this other division a few years ago called wellness. And that division is for women who, the way I understand it, which I haven't competed since this division's been created, so I don't know everything about it, but wellness is a division for women that have big muscular legs, but not a big muscular upper body, the way I understand it, which is confusing, but I guess if you just want to train the legs all the time, then that's what you would do is wellness. So pretty much everyone's body type had a division. It got completely out of control. Competitions lasting, 10 hours just to get through, because they did the men and women together. And meanwhile, all these divisions that I just mentioned, I mentioned a ton of divisions now, they each have separate weight classes and separate classes within that division. And they also have like a masters for people that are over 40 and different age groups like that. And they also have a young one for people 23 and under. They have a juniors. So when you go to these competitions, there's like thousands of competitors. Most of them are like the bikini women and the men's fitness, because people don't want to do the extremes anymore of the bodybuilding divisions and the bigger divisions. So it was already getting out of control that I became so disinterested in the sport, because I would go to these competitions to watch, and you're there till 2 a.m. So it's just like, I've had enough of this. I'm so bored just sitting here watching all these divisions that I don't really care about, waiting to get to the men's bodybuilding. The guys are sitting around backstage waiting to go out on stage until the middle of the night. So they're feeling like crap, they're dehydrated, they're tired. You would think that this would be out of control and they would scale back the divisions, but no, it's just been reported that they're coming out with yet another division for the women called the Women's Fit Body or Fitness Model. I don't even know. It's completely ridiculous. It is supposed to be this one step below bikini. And bikini was already the division that was made for women who maybe have only been training for, you know, a short period of time and don't have much muscle. So now there's a division even below that. So who's going to compete in this? Like people who maybe don't even work out, maybe just people who watch what they eat. Now they have the opportunity to compete. So what the NPC and IFBB organizations are doing now, seemingly, is trying to get as many people to compete in these competitions as possible. And the quality is just going completely down. The competitions are dragging on for hours and hours. The whole sport is completely out of control, ridiculous. I will never compete again. I think the whole thing it's just a big, huge cash grab, a huge scam. Who wants to sit around all day, wait as they go through all these divisions? They obviously just want money. They want these competitors to come in, pay hundreds of dollars to compete, bring their family, bring their friends to come watch them up on stage. You gotta pay to be in the audience to watch too. So someone who's putting on these shows is making tons of money, eating steak in a hotel room, having a good time. That's the people who are benefiting from this. The athletes are not benefiting. The audience is not benefiting. The whole thing is a complete joke. And so I have such a bad, you know, I have a chip on my shoulder for the whole sport of bodybuilding, because I just feel like, you know, they clearly only care about money. They don't care about the competitors or anything like that. They just care about lining their pockets. That's the way, at least it feels like to me. I don't know. Any of you guys, let me know, any of you that follow bodybuilding, let me know if you think it's a good idea that they opened up this division. You know how my thoughts are on it. But yeah, just wanted to come on here and make a little rant about that, because it's a sport that I've been involved with for so long and that I've loved so much, and it was such a huge part of my life, and it's just so disappointing to see how far downhill it's gone, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but for now, that's all I gotta say for this video. Thanks for watching. Mark Haynes doing stuff. Like and subscribe. I just want to make it clear, I wasn't trying to say that the women's bikini and that those kind of competitors don't train hard or they don't put much effort into it. I know maybe watching this back, it kind of sounded like I was insinuating that, but no, they definitely train hard. I'm just saying they're not as heavily muscled, and that's, you know, the way they want to look. They don't want to be heavily muscled. So I just wanted to make that clear. I'm not hating on any of these competitors.